Once your Community Development Corporation has decided to apply for a Community Economic Development, or CED, grant, you will need to submit an application. The Office of Community Services, under the Department of Health and Human Services, publishes an annual Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO. Your application must be submitted within the application period and respond directly to the NOFO. This video will provide you tips to consider as you write and submit a CED grant application, including topics of project funding, business creation and expansion, job creation, project implementation, and application layout and submission. For all elements of your application, provide as much evidence as you have that your project will be ready to implement at a time of award to complete the objectives of the CED program. Before you begin your CED grant application, determine your organization's eligibility. To apply for a CED grant, your organization must meet each of the following criteria. 1. Be a private, nonprofit CDC experienced in developing and managing economic development projects. 2. Be governed by a board of directors consisting of residents of the community and business and civic leaders. 3. Have planning, developing, or managing low-income housing or community development activities as a principal purpose. CED awards funds to private, nonprofit community development corporations, or CDCs, including faith-based organizations and tribal and Alaskan Native organizations. The CDC's primary principal purpose is planning, developing, or managing low-income housing or community development projects. Tribal and Native organizations must be private, nonprofit organizations that are not tribal or Native governments. A tribal or Native nonprofit will have different EIN and UEI from their tribal or Native governments. When providing information on your CDC's eligibility, a specific designation is not required. However, you should provide your organization's articles of incorporation or bylaws that reflect your primary purpose meeting the requirements. Please note, CED does not fund individuals. When starting your application, first ensure that your project can be funded by the CED grant. Each NOFO includes a minimum and maximum grant amount. If your project exceeds the maximum grant amount, you can use additional funding from other organizations. Include detailed information about which organizations will provide funding and how much funding will be provided. Although receiving a CED grant is not contingent on having this funding in place at the time of the application, it is a best practice to have the CED grant as the final funding piece. As you write the application, ensure that CED funds are connected only to eligible activities. Eligible activities include startup capital for operating expenses, as well as loans, equity, or stock investments in participating businesses. Your application will include a budget justification narrative where you will describe the budget and its uses in detail, but you may also reference the budget items throughout the application. Ensure the application provides evidence of all funding necessary to implement and complete the proposed project. Matching funds are not required for CED grants, but if additional funding is needed, ensure you show that funds will be available to cover all expenses during the project period. It is a best practice to confirm that any references to budget items and amounts remain consistent throughout the application. A key part of your project is business creation or expansion. You may be working with one or more businesses. It will strengthen your application to have a selected specific businesses to create or expand. If your project is a revolving loan fund, select the businesses that will receive the first set of loans. Your application should clearly describe the businesses you are working with by naming the business, providing the business location, describing what the goods or services are being sold, connecting the business's goods or services to a need in the market or community, and stating whether the business is new or being expanded. If the business is being expanded, explain how it is being expanded. For example, is it moving to a bigger building or new location? Is it adding a new product or service? Are new customers being served? How will expanding the business create new jobs? You may also want to include a signed agreement with the business that they will create 75% of the new jobs for individuals with low income. For CED business investment of any kind, all documentation and/or agreements necessary to support evidence of the investment should be included in the application. Documentation may include executed lease, loan, or participatory agreements to protect the government's investment and assure CED program compliance. The focus of CED projects is job creation for individuals with low income, not training, placement, or technical assistance. Low income is defined by the HHS poverty guidelines. Job creation is the creation of new full-time, full-year positions for the project that did not exist prior to the start of the project and came about as a direct result of the investment of CED funds in project activities. Jobs created through the CED program are intended to be high-quality jobs that provide living wages, paid leave, fringe benefits, opportunities for career growth, and/or predictable and flexible scheduling practices to allow individuals to achieve economic self-sufficiency and promote equity. Since job creation is the core of the CED program, confirm that your job numbers meet the NOFO requirements and are consistent throughout the application. Best practices include: first, checking that your proposed job meets the cost per job requirements, meaning that you will propose a minimum number of jobs to be created based on your requested funding amount. You must propose to create a minimum number of jobs using the funding formula and requirements from the NOFO. For example, if the cost for a construction job is $30,000 per job and non-construction jobs are $25,000 per job. For example, you will take the total amount of federal CED funds awarded, or $800,000, divided by cost per job for projects with no construction activities, or $25,000, to equal the minimum number of jobs to be created, or 32. Please note, an applicant's score will not increase by proposing jobs above the required minimum. Second, confirming the number of jobs proposed for individuals with low income is actually 75% of the total jobs proposed. For example, if your project proposes 32 total new jobs, your application should propose at least 24 jobs for individuals with low income. Finally, reviewing the application to ensure the job numbers are the same in all parts of the application. Your CED project may include multiple businesses and partners, so it's important to make sure your project strategy is clear to reviewers. You can do this by clearly stating your project strategies, such as loan, equity investments, direct investments, or construction. For loans, describe if it is a loan to a single business or a revolving loan fund. For loans and equity investments, clearly share the terms of the agreement. If the project has funding from multiple sources, share how the CED funding will specifically be used. For example, if CED funds are used in a large construction project, is the CED funding used for development costs, construction itself, or equipment once construction is complete? If construction is being completed for the project, but the CED funds are being loaned to the organization for construction, clearly state that a loan is being used to facilitate the construction. Additionally, write a clear project timeline with milestones to ensure your project is completed and positions are created within the project period. To ensure your project will be successfully implemented, Share your organization's staff and capacity in the application. Specifically, state who at your organization will have responsibilities in implementing the project. Include resumes to demonstrate your team's experience and capacity. If your organization will be implementing the project with a partner, it's a best practice to obtain partners' commitment to the project and commitment to the CED program goals through a signed project partner agreement submitted with the application. You should also consider how you will recruit, verify, track, and report on job creation and employment of individuals with low income to ensure that a minimum of 75% of the new positions are filled by individuals with low income. It is a best practice to describe how you will maintain records about your job positions for the purpose of semi-annual reporting. Finally, it is important to consider how the application layout helps reviewers to best understand your project proposal. First, the project summary or abstract should clearly describe the participating businesses, project strategy, and proposed outcomes for the project. You may consider the summary as a short pitch where the reviewer gains a full understanding of the project through a single reading. Tips for laying out a clear application also include using clear headings, bolding key points, writing in short, concise, and plain language, confirming the page numbers in the table of contents and page references throughout your application are correct. For example, if you reference a document in the appendix, is the document included in the appendix? And is the page reference correct? In order for your application to be considered, it must be submitted by the specified deadline and through the submission method described in the NOFO. Prior to the application due date, have all the required accounts and permissions set up to ensure you can submit the application. There you have it. Tips for writing and submitting a CED grant application. Consider the best practices from this video as you work on your CED grant application. Remember to read the applicable NOFO closely for more information and application requirements. Additional information about the CED program, its requirements, upcoming funding opportunities, and resources for prospective recipients can be found on the Community Economic Development website. Thanks for watching.